welcome back. Today I wanted to review this saber, which is an LGT saber that goes by a couple of different names. This is a pre-configured saber that's offered by Crimson Dawn and Dark Wolf. Crimson Dawn calls it the Eldar, Dark Wolf calls it the Silver Talon. I actually like the name Eldar a little bit better for reasons I'll discuss in just a moment. But this hilt is made out of variable hilt configuration parts from LGT. So you could actually source all these parts individually from Outer Rim, which would be a way to get this empty, because I believe that Crimson Dawn and Dark Wolf both sell it with a saber core installed. Alright, so let me talk about that just a moment. These VHC boards, I'm not going to, in this video, discuss the features and the function of the effects and all that stuff, because I covered that when I talked about the LGT removable core. Okay, these sabers all have the same design, so you can pop one core out and pop another one in. This is a baselit core with a tri-cree light in there, or actually a quad-core light in there. So this is what I would use for Ripper blades. The thing that's in it right now is a NeoPixel core, which I'm using to run this Bendu Armory NeoPixel blade right here. So the function and everything like that is specific to the core that you put in it, but the cores are interchangeable, so if I had a Profi core, I could pop one out, pop one in, and then I'd be ready to go. So I wanted to focus primarily on the hilt design for this one. So the hilt design on this is 3 parts. The pommel is a removable part, the grip section is a removable part, and the emitter and the switch are one part fused together. So a lot of times with the variable hilt configuration sabers, the switch section is a separate part from the emitter. In this one, the switch section and the emitter come together. Alright, the overall look of this saber, before I take it apart and start looking at the parts, but the overall look from this saber is very Old Republic, which is why I like the name Eldar a little bit better, because it brings in that Old Republic feel. Alright, in a lot of ways, this looks very similar to a Nihilus saber from Champions of the Force. Okay, I've got one of those right here. Alright, so you see some of the same concentric lines. It has a different emitter. This has an angled emitter as opposed to this one having a flat emitter. But if you get some of the other variable hilt configuration parts, you could probably make a passable Nihilus. It'll never have the right emitter, but it would sort of look like a Nihilus saber. What this really looks like, though, is a Zane Garrick saber. Now, if you're not familiar with Zane Garrick, he's the protagonist of like all of the Old Republic comic books, or most of the Old Republic comic books. And his saber has exactly this design. I mean, the rings and then the facing ring on this side, except those rings continue down into here, and it's got a curve. Because you're dealing with these interchangeable chassis, you can't really get a curve to a saber like this. I believe that Crimson Dawn has one called the Nymph that uses this same emitter and has a curve, air quotes, because it goes all the way down to here and then it just sort of juts at an angle. It's sort of an oddly artificial curve. But anyhow, for the most part, a true curve to a saber like this is not possible because of the cores that it takes, or the saber cores that it takes. So this is pretty close to Zane Garrick's saber. It would be passable as Zane Garrick's saber, just minus the curve. Alright, so let me take a look at the setup of this thing. So first off, let me go ahead and pop the blade out. Alright, so the blade socket depth on this, with one of the cores, is about to here. So this is a reasonable amount of socket depth right there. You could use this as a dueling saber, depending on the core that you have, because it does grip the blade well enough. A lot of the LGT sabers are a little bit hard to get to, the battery and the board and all of that wonderful stuff, without removing the core. So for this one, the pommel is a separate piece, as I mentioned. The grate on the pommel is closer to this side, so this is a lot of empty space. All right, the grip section is inset, so it gives it a nice place to feel it with your hand while you're swinging it around. But when you remove the grip section, you can't actually remove the battery, because the battery lies this side of the grip section, so the battery can't come out without removing the entire core. What removing the grip does give you access to, though, is it gives you access to the memory card. So the memory card is right here. I could pop that out and put different sound fonts or something like that on it without having to remove the entire core from the saber. should I actually want to remove the core from the saber. Another interesting thing about this is a very shiny sort of chromed hilt, and you notice it doesn't have those two screws on either side of the button and the recharge point. Okay, in a lot of LGT sabers you have a screw here and a screw here, and putting those screws in pulls the switch and the recharge port up to being flush with the saber. All right, and that's how you attach it in. All right, for this one, there's no screw on either side, so it keeps that shiny finish. The screws are on the back. And this one right here with the big head is actually a pointy screw that just secures the chassis. This one right here is a long screw that pushes up from the back of the chassis and pushes the button and the recharge port into place. It actually goes in this hole right back here. Alright, so let me go ahead and pop out these two screws so that you can see that. Alright. Here is the shorter pointy screw, and this one is the longer screw that positions the button and the recharge port. You see how long this thing is as I pull it out here. It also goes in real snugly, so you'll feel if you're hitting that hole or not. If you have it misaligned, you can crush the board trying to put this in by force. But it's a long screw right here. All right, and then the button and the recharge port push down, and the board slides out. Okay, this is my NeoPixel board right here. All right, so if I wanted to put in a baselit board like this one, I just stick that in, line up the buttons. I suggest going for this longer screw first because this is the one that needs to be in the right place or it won't work. So start that off. Feel it get to the right place. Tighten it up into the board, and as I tighten it, you can watch the button rise. There we go. That's too tall. Bring that back a little bit so it's flush. There we go. Okay. Put in the pointy screw that secures it. Alright, grip section back on, pommel back on, and then if I want I can stick something fancy in it like a ripper blade. Okay. Loosen the set screw on the blade there. Okay, so now I've got a baselet. So basically it's a pretty versatile Old Republic themed, super shiny, easy to use and easy to handle hilt. I really kind of like this design, which is why this is the only one of those pre-configured that I think I've ever bought. There it is, the Silver Talon or Eldar. Also available, like I said, with parts from Outer Rim. Hopefully this review has been of use to you. If it has, join me back next time and we'll look at other things. Thanks. Bye.